Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am the Modern Dodo. I'm outside already. When I'm filming this, it's about 2 hours before kickoff on the final weekend of home games for the 2020/21 Premier League season. It's certainly been a long one for Arsenal to some degree. I'm excited that it will be over for us and we get a fresh start next year. But at the same time, it means 3 months without Premier League soccer, which is certainly going to be disappointing. I would be remiss if I didn't note that by the time it starts back up, Norwich City will have been welcomed back to the Premier League. So I'll be back to weekends where I have two teams to root for, both Arsenal and Norwich. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited for a fresh start, but that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to talk about today is these pictures that are right here behind me. These arrived in the mail yesterday. They're actually some prints that I had custom made on the Fiverr website. My first time going through Fiverr, great experience. Check it out if you've got projects or anything that you need to be done. I need to take a deeper dive. I think they do a lot more than just creative design work, but it was a really seamless experience. So well done, Fiverr. Round of applause for your user experience. You'll certainly have me as a repeat customer. But I had these prints made up. I was able to work with the designer to select photos from online. I was able to pair them up with some quotes that I had selected before I started the project. And I wanted to focus on three people that have really been inspirational for me in terms of chasing my dreams and looking to convert from a career in sales to a career in marketing. I would, of course, argue that they are one and the same. But technically, my job title now says marketing versus sales. So I'll play along and focus on that. So let's start over. I guess it would be my right shoulder here, just because I've talked about Gary Vaynerchuk a lot. So the quote says, "If you don't love the process, you've lost already." This one really meant a lot to me because it was very similar to a quote that Kobe Bryant, who I've talked about as being somebody that I really love to follow as a sports personality. Kobe said a similar quote in his retirement speech, which has since been titled Mamba Out. You can check it out online. But he talked about how it wasn't about winning championships, but it was ultimately about the time that he spent practicing. And I'm actually going to butcher the quote a little bit because I'm outside and I don't have it in front of me. But he said, essentially, if you focus on the process, you won't accomplish your dreams. You'll accomplish something much greater. And for me, it really means something similar to what I think Gary meant when he put the quote in writing, or said the quote, is focus on the process, enjoy each and every day. And if you focus on the lead metrics, the lag metric, or the end result will end up being much more impressive than you could have ever dreamed of. So it's a very inspirational print for me, and I'm happy to have it in my new office. I can't wait to mount it to the wall and be up and running. I, of course, have been glued to Gary and his new project, VeeFriends, throughout. Gosh, it's probably been the past month. He was hyping the launch of 5/5 for a good 2 to 3 weeks before the 5/5 date. So I think it's been a month that this project has been on our radar. It's absolutely fascinating. He's near a sellout now, and where I get the most enjoyment is following it almost every day in terms of how he promotes it. I think yesterday he got on Discord and did a live Q&A on Discord, and going back to the fact that sales is marketing, marketing is sales, Gary was simply talking to his fans. Never did he say, go out and buy this. He simply talked about how he was going to over deliver with one of the tokens called a gift goat, where people get gifts. I believe it is 6 times a year for 3 years. And he was able to sell through, it was probably somewhere between 20 to 30 gift goats at 5 ETH a piece. Now, there's a lot going on with the crypto market right now, but at the time of the sale, I think 5 ETH meant $12,000 worth of investment for each gift goat. So Gary was able to sell through, let's call it $300,000 worth of NFTs in about 30 minutes on Discord, just simply talking to the fans that he had built up. Now, what's really interesting when you talk about marketing and why I love this print appearing in my new office as I look to grow my marketing agency is there's a really excellent book called The Attention Merchants that everybody should read. And when you look at how Gary has built his career, he has given away value at an exponential rate. And, I don't really think there's an ulterior motive. I think it's just what he believes in. But by giving away value, he's built up an unbelievable amount of followers that therefore will join him on his Discord channel and end up then buying the gift goat. So he really is, I would argue, actually the book The Attention Merchants really gives a lot of credit to the Kardashians, rightfully so, but I would argue, Gary, you've got some tough competition, a 1-2 punch with the Kardashians in terms of being the greatest attention merchants. Let's look over my left shoulder. The one on my left shoulder might be a little bit tougher to recognize. It's Bill Veeck, and I talk about Bill Veeck a lot. I've talked about him a lot with my staff, and a lot of people say, well, who is Bill Veeck? Bill Veeck was a baseball owner, marketer, salesperson who really accomplished amazing things. Perhaps the two most famous marketing promotions that you'll know about are Disco Demolition Night, where he blew up a bunch of disco records in the outfield of one of his games. He also was responsible for sending Eddie Gaedel up to bat. And Eddie Gaedel was a little person, and Bill's pretense for it was that he would have such a small strike zone that the pitchers wouldn't know how to handle him. I believe if my facts are correct, Eddie wore the number 3/4 on his uniform when he went up to bat. Veeck as in Wreck is the book. Actually, gosh, I first started reading it during the summers at Michigan State by the pool. I would read Veeck as in Wreck and have marketing dreams similar to Bill's. Now, in terms of the quote that I put up there, what can I do? I ask myself, that is so spectacular that no one will be able to see that he had seen it before. Pretty inspirational quote. It always has me thinking absolutely big and massive, both in my sales and marketing career. Similar to the Kobe quote I recited, I never like to just shoot, for greatness. True excellence and wow factor is what I go for whenever I'm putting together a campaign or a project. But that's not where Bill has influenced me the most. One of the other things that's unique about Bill is that he used to, now, he would do it a little bit differently than I do. He used to stay up late after the games, go out to the bars, he would drink and he would smoke cigars and have a whole lot of fun, and then he would wake up the next day and do it all over again. I think he averaged something crazy like 4 hours of sleep. And as I was reading his book for probably the second or third time, that really inspired me and struck a chord with me to realize that life is short and, why choose sleep when I can choose to be awake, accomplishing things, and having a great time? So slowly over time, what I did is I conditioned myself to sleep a little bit less. That's why I wake up every morning at 4:30 in the morning. Now, like I said, Bill was staying up late. I wake up early, but a lot of people will ask me, well, if you wake up at 4:30 in the morning, what time do you go to bed? You must go to bed at like 8 o'clock. I don't go to bed at 8 o'clock. Most nights I go to bed at 10 or 11, something like that. It's not quite Bill Veeck, 4 hours of sleep. I think if I'm going to bed at 11, that gives me about 5.5 hours of sleep. When I was working for the Lightning, obviously home games, I didn't get home and fall asleep till midnight or 1 o'clock. So that was more in the Bill Veeck range. I was working in sports, 4 hours of sleep. But there's something to be said for waking back up, being a little bit tired, and just attacking the day regardless. It's certainly a great feeling. So if you have not checked it out, it's a great business book, and it's a great read in terms of storytelling. Veeck is in Wreck. Speaking of a great book that's a good business book and an even better story, I believe it's called it's Barnum's Own Story. Barnum's Own Story. It's the autobiography of P.T. Barnum, and there goes my dog, of course. Ricky, come here. Say hello. Barnum's Own Story is the autobiography of P.T. Barnum. He is on the far side over my left shoulder, and similar to what I talked about with, swinging for the fences with Bill Veeck, the quote I put up there from P.T. Barnum is, whatever you do, do it with all your might. P.T. Barnum absolutely swung for the fences. His story is fantastic, but a lot of people just think about him because of the circus and, Barnum and Bailey circus. But where the circus originally started was with his absolutely unbelievable imagination. I think his first project, if I remember correctly, was the Fiji Mermaid. It was some creation that was a sewn together body of a monkey and the tail of a fish, which was, of course, a great hoax that he put together that put him on the map. He employed General Tom Thumb, ironically, similar to Bill Veeck. He was a little person, General Tom Thumb. I believe first started working and traveling with PT when he was like 5 years old. But at the time he was posing as an 11-year-old, which made his short stature even more impressive because General Tom Thumb actually did impressions, and he was unbelievably mature for his age, that as a 5-year-old he was able to pose as an 11-year-old. When you think about it, that's absolutely amazing. P.T. Barnum later spent time, and I'm blanking on her name, the Swedish Nightingale, was an opera singer that he made extremely famous. So again, it wasn't all about hoaxes and the unusual. He was truly able to promote what he was running with, as well as an elephant called Jumbo. You can do the math. It makes logical sense that Jumbo later became Dumbo in Disney lore. So P.T. Barnum accomplished a whole lot. It's notable that at one time his entire showroom, he was working out of an office building. He wasn't always a traveling circus. His entire showroom burned down, and he was forced to start from scratch. So, it's no surprise that somebody who had such mental fortitude to start all over after everything was lost was so successful in his business career. So I would highly recommend checking out both Veeck is in Wreck as well as the autobiography of P.T. Barnum. Two unbelievable reads. I myself, I'll admit, I haven't read Gary Vaynerchuk's book. I understand he has a really good book out. Maybe I'll get to that next. I'm currently reading a book called Concrete Rose, which is actually the story of Maverick Carter, and that's fascinating as well. I'm about maybe halfway through that. I have been going through. I have been going through a little bit of a lighter reading period as we go into the summer, and that's more of a story, Concrete Rose, worth checking out for sure. So I'm starting to ramble a little bit, which means it's probably time to end this and sign off and start getting ready for the final Premier League season final Premier League Sunday of the season, I should say. I hope you've enjoyed me giving you a peek into some of the people that have influenced my marketing journey, and I hope you agree that these are going to look fantastic in my new office. Whoever you're rooting for on this Premier League Sunday, unless it's Tottenham, of course, enjoy your Sunday, and I wish you a great one.